sisters. Praise the Lord, everybody. Praise the Lord, everybody. It is now 7:02, so we 2 minutes late, but we're going to get started right now. Amen. Amen, amen, amen. We welcome everyone to the True Spirit House, our 25th anniversary musical. We are so gracious that you took your time to come out, and we're thankful. We're thankful, first of all, to be alive. Amen. Thankful to be in the presence of you all. Amen. And how many of y'all came out to have a good time in the Lord? Amen. Amen. We're going to do a very short devotion. We're going to have a scripture and a prayer, and then we're going to move on with our program. Is that all right? Is that all right? Amen. Amen. We'll have our scripture. We can all please stand.
May we all stand. Our scripture will come from Psalms 150. I say again, Psalms 150, starting at the first verse. Praise ye the Lord. Praise God in his sanctuary. Praise him in his firmament of his power. Praise him for his mighty acts. Praise him according to his excellent greatness. Praise him with the sounds of trumpet. Praise him with the sounds of psaltery and harp. Praise him with the timbrels and the dance. Praise him with the strings, instruments, and organ. Praise him upon the loud cymbals. Praise him upon the high-sounding cymbals. Let everything. It didn't say some. It didn't say if you will. It says praise everything that has breath. And I don't want a rock to have my breath. You can put it on me when I'm dead, but right now I'm breathing. Praise ye the Lord.
All right.
You can be seated. Amen. We bow our heads for a word of prayer. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord, for allowing us another opportunity to come into the house of God to praise you, Lord. Father, we want to lift up our voices, Lord God, to honor you, Father God, for allowing us another opportunity to come here. Father, we pray for every household in here, Father God, and the ones that are coming, Lord. Father, we pray blessings on each and every family, each and every one's children, Father God. Keep them safe from hurt, harm, and danger. Father, we pray that the angels of mercy just cover us today, Lord God, as we give you praise. And we'll be careful to give you the honor, the praise, and the glory. In Jesus' name, Father God. Amen.
That concludes our devotion. We now turn you to the hands of our sister Charlene Hicks for our welcome. Amen. Amen.
Good evening. Well, I just want to, first of all, just greet you in the name of Jesus Christ. And I want to also take this opportunity to first thank God for the chance for us to celebrate here tonight in his name, the love of God. Okay. Now, we're here to kick off the celebration of our 25th church anniversary. 25 years of God's grace and mercy. Now that's good. And that's no small accomplishment. Now I'm here to welcome you. So get comfortable. So if you have to take your shoes off, take your shoes off. You have to take your coats off, take your coats off. I think that's as far as I'm going to go with that. Okay? All right. Now because we all have the same Father, you're not guests in this house. You're family, okay? So I'm here to say welcome, welcome, and welcome. So now we're going to have responses from our cousins, our aunts, our mama nims, formerly known as guest churches. So.
Any responses? Now, I know some other churches was tried. There we go. Thank you, sir.
You know, there has been a lot of churches that have came and gone. You are still standing. Standing for a purpose. Fountain, if you ever down there, come visit us. We come to praise God's name. We come in the name of God. Because without him, who are we? All right. We bless you on this particular day. Wish you well, fond memory. But remember, it doesn't stop here. Yes. This goes forward. This is just a number that the Lord has given. And you do not know where that number will start, or where it will stop. Bless you. Congratulations on 25 years. Definitely a blessing to make it this far. We definitely wish you many more. And we are very glad to be with you.
Any others? I don't want to miss anybody. This is your opportunity. Amen. On behalf of our pastor, Pastor Anthony Greer, in his absence, we thank you all for joining us on this evening. Amen. We hope that you all do exactly as our welcome said. Just come out, have a good time, and let's worship and praise a true and living God. Amen. That being said, I now turn you over to Sister Charlotte Wright for our welcome. I'm sorry for our introduction. Thank you, moms, aunties, cousins, and them.
Praise the Lord, everybody. Praise the Lord. We are excited tonight. I have the awesome responsibility of introducing our Master of Ceremony. This is somebody that I call my friend, my big brother when he want to be, a mentor, and just an awesome minister of music. Reverend Render, we consider him a part of the family. Amen. He is a very sweet and kind person, and he is one of our own. He is the son of Miss Mary Dunlap, who taught him music at a very early age. And at the age of 14, he became a minister of music for the first time. And we had the honor and we were blessed to have him here for 21 years as our minister of music. And we just thank God for it. And we just thank him for taking the time to come all the way from Michigan to get here and to bless us. He is a man of God and he loves Christ. And he's not afraid to praise him, worship him, and lift him up. And that's what he expects all of us to do tonight. So y'all help me welcome, give him a big round of applause, Reverend Alan Render.
Amen. God bless you. Now, will you put your hands together for Jesus? Does anybody in here love Jesus? Hallelujah. Oh, we bless God on tonight. We bless God on tonight. God has been so good. God has opened doors. God has made ways. And we're excited about it tonight. Amen. It's a blessing to be in the house on tonight. And I'm excited. Have your seat. Have a seat. Have a seat. Amen. Now, if the Holy Ghost puts you up on your feet, then you go ahead. Amen. But I want you to know I didn't come 1,200 miles to look at y'all. I want to have some church tonight. Amen. God is so good. Amen. Before we move any further, somebody who's been to St. Martin or somebody went and brought them back a souvenir, you lost your keys. Amen. Amen. We're going to put them up here. Amen. We give honor to God and to the shepherd of this house in his absence, Pastor Greer. Amen. Pastor Holland I seen here. And Pastor Jackson. Come on, give these men of God a hand. Amen. Reverend Jones. Mr. Reynolds. And let me stop, but I got to acknowledge the clergy. Am I missing anybody? Amen. God bless you, Mama Holland over there. Amen. Love you too. Amen. God is so good. God is so good. How many of y'all want to have a good time on tonight? We used to do a little thing here at True Spirit. Brother Earl, Sister Jackie, see if y'all can do this with me. How many of y'all, True Spirit, remember praise God, glory, hallelujah? Y'all remember how we used to do that? All right, so I'm going to show you. We're gonna set the tone. We're going to set the atmosphere tonight. We do praise God, glory, hallelujah. The brothers are going to start it, okay? The brothers are going to stand up. They're going to say, praise God. Then what am I going to say? Glory, hallelujah. And we're going to alternate up and down. Going to get you worked up a little bit. Praise God. That's the men. Sit down. Women stand up. Glory, hallelujah. Men. Praise God, women. Glory, hallelujah. Everybody remain standing. I mean, that's when you let the rafters hear it up in heaven. Praise ye the Lord. Excuse me. What can you in? This voice getting old with this body, y'all. All right, let's try it. Come on, brothers, let's stand up. Praise God. Sit down. Glory, hallelujah. Praise God. Glory, hallelujah. Praise God. Glory, everybody, praise ye the Lord. Come on, give the Lord a hand praise. Can we do that one more time? All right, women, that will see. Come on, brothers. Praise God. Glory, hallelujah. Praise God. Glory, hallelujah. Praise God. Glory, hallelujah. Everybody, come on, let's give the Lord a hand praise. Come on. Bless him in this house. Bless him in this house. Amen. Amen. Starting our program tonight, we're going to my folks. Amen. True Spirit Baptist Church Mass Choir. Let's give them a hand as they come. Lord.
I know the Lord.
Yes, I do.
I know the Lord.
I know the Lord.
I know the Lord. He laid his hand.
Well, I went to the valley and I didn't go to stay. I go God at me and I say, oh, day. I know the Lord.
I know the Lord.
Yes, I do.
I know the Lord.
I know the Lord.
I know the Lord. He laid his hands on me.
I know the Lord.
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 I know the Lord. He laid his hands
Well, hands on me.
on me.
Hands 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 on me.
When he rocked me.
Hands on 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 me.
He lay.
He laid his hands on me. Oh yeah. He laid his hands on me.
Well, put your mind on Jesus.
Let's have church.
Put your mind on Jesus.
Let's have church.
Well, put your mind on Jesus.
Let's have church.
Put your mind on Jesus. Everybody, put your mind on Jesus.
Let's have church.
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 Well, put your hands together. Put your feet on the floor. And let the Holy Ghost rock you from the pulpit to the door. Sing.
Your hands together.
Put your
Feet on the floor.
and let
The Holy Ghost rock you from
one more time. Put your hands together.
hands together.
Put your feet on the
floor. And let the Holy Ghost rock you from the pulpit
Come on, y'all.
to the floor.
Let's have church.
Let's have church.
Let's have church.
Let's have church.
Cut your hands
Let's have church.
and let's have church.
Let's have church.
Can't no devil
Let's have church.
can't hold me down.
Let's have church.
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 Let's have church. Can't nobody do me like Jesus. Can't nobody even come close, y'all. Can't nobody do me like Jesus. And before I move any further, is Reverend Fanoy here? Okay, I just wanted to acknowledge him, amen, for the time that he spent here at True Spirit, amen. Come on, right is right. Amen, for the years that he labored here in this vineyard. We thank God for each of you, amen. So I just see resurrection on the program. I'm assuming y'all just left the new off, or do we have a new ministry around here? Amen. Is a new resurrection? Are you in the house? Oh, hey! Where Reverend Mose? Did he know I was going to be here, Sister Della? All right. Amen. Amen. I was looking forward to seeing Reverend Mose. Come on and bless us tonight. Come on, new resurrection. Amen. Come on, we can do better than that. Let's give them a hand. Running for a long time. Your time is winding up. You better make up your mind. Getting late in the evening. Sun is going down. You better get right with God while it may be found. I want to know who's on the left side. Where do you stand? Who's on the left side? Where do you stand? Who's on the Lord's side? I am more. I am more. I'm on. Yeah. I am on. All right, now here's what we want everybody to do. I want you to look at the person next to you. And if they're sitting down, you should ask them to get on up. Everybody say, get up. If you're wrong, get up. If you're on inside, if you got the Holy Ghost, get on up. Get on up. Get up. Come on, two times, get up. Get up. Get up. If you're on, get up. Get up. Okay, we can do it 3 times. Get up. If you're on, get on up. Hey, come on, everybody. I'm on the Lord. I am on the Lord. One more time. I am. Hey, get on up. If you're on the Lord's side, get. If you've been baptized, then get on up. If you're on the Lord, get on up. Hey, if you're on, come on, y'all ready? We gotta roll it. Get on up. Get up. Get up. Get up. Get up. If you're on the Lord's side, I am more. I am on. I am on. That's it. Come on. Oh, come on, give me a little bit more of that. We got on up. Where do you stand? That's what I want to know. Who's on the Lord's side? Where do you stand? Come on, I got a witness. Who's on the Lord's side? Y'all ain't on this side. Where do you stand? Can I get a witness? Who's on the Lord's side? Where do you stand? Who's on the Lord's side? Where do you stand? Who's on the Lord's side? Don't stop. So look like I got some Sunday morning standards. But you need to be standing Monday through Sunday. If you want him to stand with you, you need to stand with him. So we're going to try that one more time. Where do you stand? Who's on the Lord's side? Come on, church. Where do you stand? Who's on the Lord's side? Who's on the Lord's side? Where do you stand? Where do you stand? Who's on the Lord's side? Who's on the Lord's side? Where do you stand? Where do you stand? Who's on the Lord's side? Give me your personal testimony. I'm on. Come on, do you mean it? The Lord. Yeah. Amen. I'm on the Lord's side. And I'm glad about it. I'm glad about it. I remember my grandmother used to say, who wouldn't serve a God like this? Who wouldn't serve a God like this? who loves us in spite of ourselves. We can get funny sometimes, but God loves us unconditionally anyway. I enjoyed that. New resurrection. Who's on the Lord's side? Amen. We're going to call the officers at this time. We want to be a blessing to this ministry, to this work. 25 years. A milestone. 25 years. See, I'm one of the people that remember when they said we wouldn't make it 3. Carolyn, am I telling the truth? I said, I'm one of the ones that remember when they said we wasn't going to make it 3. But look what God did. Come on, True Spirit, give God some praise. Give God some praise. He didn't have to do it. He didn't have to do this. But look how he loved you, True Spirit. Now, before I even left Colorado Springs, there was churches closing left and right. I know one very personally. But look what God did. Y'all know I'm just real like that. But look what God did for True Spirit. God, so many of y'all try to walk by and shake my hand. I just love you so much. And I want to try to stop calling names, but I just see so many faces that I love. Amen. God bless you. The officers are coming at this time.
of Jesus. Yes, God. Yes, Lord. Mhm. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen. At this time, we're going to call for divine spirit. Amen. Thank God for divine spirit. Amen.
Amen.
This church, this choir is just very special to me.
Thank you, Jesus.
Amen. I met them about 20 years ago.
That's right.
Amen. We were just across the parking lot.
That's right.
Just a little bigger than the room.
That's right.
Over on Edison.
That's right. That's
And
right.
we identified ourselves as sister churches
That's
back
right.
then. Divine
Amen.
Spirit and True Spirit.
That's right. Amen.
If I could have been two places at once, this is the other place I would have been. I thank God for Mother Holland and for Pastor Holland. I love them. They're just great people of God. Bless us on tonight, Divine Spirit. Give them a hand.
Good evening, everybody. God is so good to us. I was thinking, Reverend Renda, as you were saying that, how we used to share Vacation Bible School. We'd have it one year, and True Spirit would have it the next year. And this is Pastor Holland's 22nd year at Divine Spirit. And there are some days, you would think we wouldn't make it. But let me tell you, God is a good God. God is an awesome God. And so we give him praise. And for those of you that know us, y'all know I'm going to take you on back, right? Okay. Because I'll take you back where we were doing the, you know. Okay. Down through the years, the Lord's been good to me. Oh, down through the years, oh Lord, the Lord's been good to me. I'll tell you, down through the years, the Lord's been good to me. I'll tell you that the Lord really been good to me. Oh, well, now down through the years, the Lord's been good to me. Oh, down through the years, oh Lord, the Lord's been good to me. I'll tell you, down through the years, oh Lord, well, the Lord's been good to me. I'll tell you that the Lord's really been good. Oh, yes, to me. Well, I got good religion. I didn't get it in no tree. You just shake me, wake me in the midnight hour, and I'll tell you everything I've seen. I come to tell you that down through the years, oh Lord, the Lord's been good to me. I know that down through the years, you know that the Lord's been good to me. Oh, well, now down through the years, Come on and fix me if you please. If you can't fix me while I'm standing up, come on and fix me down on my knees. I've come to tell you that down through the years, oh Lord, the Lord's been good to me. Oh Lord, well down through the years, I know that the Lord's been good to me. I come to tell you that down through the years, I know that the Lord's been good to me. I come to tell you that the Lord really been good. I want you to know that the Lord really been good. Every day that the Lord really been good. Do you know that the Lord really been good? I come to tell you that the Lord really been good to me.
Down through the years, the Lord's been good. Been real good. Sure enough good. Amen. If you have a empty seat next to you, will you raise your hand? I think we got people out in the vestibule. Amen. Let's say amen for Pastor Flanoy, Pastor Orion Flanoy, Sister Minnie Flanoy. God bless you. God bless you. Amen. Come on. Y'all can do better than that. Come on. Come on. Come on. Amen. Down through the years, the Lord has been good.
Yes, He has now.
He's really been good to me. That's my testimony. Amen. All the way from Pueblo,
Yeah, Lord.
Colorado. I'm no longer here, but I want you Sankey sisters to know I listen to y'all sing all the time. I follow you and your engagements. I pretty much watched these young ladies grow up. And they were singing back then. And just see the hand of God, the favor of God, the anointing of God still on their lives. Amen. I'm thankful for them. They ain't got no choice but to sing. Their daddy can sing. Their grandmama sings. I mean, it just runs in the blood. The Sankeys. God bless you. New hope.
Hallelujah. Give God a praise in here. Come on and put those hands together. Hallelujah. Trouble in my way. Amen. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Had to cry sometime. But I have a Savior who will fix it. And I don't have to try and fix it. He'll fix it for me. Amen. Hallelujah. Put your hands together like this. Come on, I want everybody clapping. Come on. Put your hands together. Come on. Trouble in my way. Trouble in my way. I have to cry sometimes. I have to cry sometimes. Hey, so much trouble. Trouble in my way. I have to cry sometimes. I have to cry sometimes. Hey, I lay awake at night. I lay awake at night. But that's alright. That's alright. I knew Jesus. Jesus.
Amen. Trouble in my way. Has Jesus fixed it for anybody? No? Well, he done fixed a whole lot of things for me. And I'm thankful. Jesus will fix it. Amen. Trouble in my way. I tell you, I had some trouble getting out here, y'all. I had some trouble getting out here. But I'm here 3 tickets later. Ain't God good? Ain't God good? Amen. And then made a change, a flight in Chicago, and got to my seat. Somebody sitting in my seat. I said, the blood of Jesus. You will not have this seat because I'm headed to Colorado Springs. So we called the agent, and she told, give me your ticket. And the man pulled his ticket out of his bag, and I was in 3D, and he was in D3. And I told the devil, say, I told you, I'm going to Colorado Springs now. You ain't hindering me anymore. Amen. At this time, let's put our hands together for King Solomon.
Morning.
God is good. Oh, come on, somebody. God is good. No, he keeps on making a way. Am I right about it? Am I right about it?
y'all making a way for me. Man, God bless you, King Solomon. We're going over on Shelton Circle. Shelton Circle. Amen. Fresh start. Man, let's give them a hand as they come.
I see. She gonna direct it. Yeah. No. He said two. He just doing one. It's getting late. No, he just told me that we need to do two. We do it two. Come on, Janae. Janae, ain't you gonna direct it? You gonna direct it? Hurt my leg.
The Bible says, I will bless the Lord at
All times.
his praises shall continually.
Be in my mouth.
My soul shall make her boast in. The humble shall hear thereof. And what's going to happen to the humble? Oh, somebody knows some scripture up in here. How many of y'all know that God will work things out for you? After 25 years, look what God has done for True Spirit. They said you wouldn't make it. They said you couldn't take it. But y'all are standing up in the devil's face and saying, oh, here we are, Pastor Vanoy, God will work it out. So we're going to have, this is Fresh Start Baptist Church. Our pastor is Pastor John Harris, and we're going to do a couple songs for you guys. And we just want y'all to, now, y'all know me, because I don't believe in no competition, because we be subtle in competing with each other. But the Bible says, enter into his gates. That means everybody who walks into the church should be entering to the gates, not to compete, but to work, but thanksgiving. So we want everybody to just get on your feet. Just get on your feet, get your exercise. I know there's food in the back. Praise the Lord. Yeah. So you're going to burn these calories that you're going to be eating off of. And the Bible says, and the song says, he'll work it out. So we got sopranos. Sopranos, when you hear your part, you sing your part. Altos, when you hear your part, you sing your part. Tenors, when you sing your part, you sing your part. And if you don't know what you are, well, you sing something. Just make a noise, a joyful noise. Make sure it's joyful. Amen. Okay.
I tried and I tried.
We don't want to be out of order. Amen. We just crossing our T's and dotting our I's. Is that all right? Anybody know Jesus?
Yes,
We be
yes.
celebrating birthdays every year.
Yes, yes.
But what about the day you met Jesus?
Yes, yes.
Deacon Henry Henderson's going to give us a song. His testimony. What happened when he met Jesus?
Amen.
My stream.
Yes, Lord God. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. All right. Yes, Lord God.
I met Jesus.
Yes. Yes, Lord God.
There's been a burning, oh, such a burning deep down within. And he holds me with
Yes, yes.
an unseen
Yes,
power.
Yes,
And he turns me away from all sin. Thank you, Jesus. And he changes me.
yes, 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 yes.
Today.
Yes,
And I walk along this old narrow way since I met Jesus, and since He blessed
yes, Lord God.
this old soul of mine, makes me want to run on,
Yes, Lord.
shout hallelujah right to thee. Since I met Jesus,
Yes, Lord.
there's been a burning, oh, such a burning deep down within. This is what I like about it. He holds me with an unseen power, and he turns me away from all sin. Oh, and he changes me from day to day. As I walk along this old narrow way since I met Jesus, and since He blessed this old soul of mine, makes me want to run on, shout hallelujah
right to oh, his yoke is easy. His yoke is easy. And his burdens are light. If I just walk where Jesus leads me, I know that I'll always be right. I'll always be right. I'll cherish His grace. Oh, that I'm running with haste. And by God's grace, I'm gonna make it. I'll make it home someday. His yoke is easy. His yoke is easy. All His burdens are light. If I just walk where Jesus leads me, I know that I'll always be right. I'm gonna always be right. I'm gonna cherish His grace. Oh, that I'm running. I'm gonna run it with haste. And by His grace, I'm gonna make it. And by His grace, I know I'm gonna make it. And by His grace, I know that I'm gonna make it. I'll make it home
Oh, yes, oh, yes. Since I met Jesus, has anybody met Him? Since I met Jesus, oh, what a burning, deep down within. Since I met Jesus, God bless you, evangelist. Since I met Jesus, His yoke is easy. And when they took us back, anybody still love traditional gospel music? I'm not knocking the new stuff, but I'm just sorry the message is not the same. His yoke is easy. Ask some young folks, what is a yoke? And see what they say. Let's keep those songs alive. Let's keep those songs alive. Keep on singing those songs. And then they did a little change to their first song, and I loved it. Because the original, when Father Hayes and Cosmopolitan recorded that, they said Jesus can work it out. But what did they tell us? Jesus will work it out. That's a personal testimony. See, I've been there, and He had to work some things out for me. So I'm a witness. Jesus will. He goes beyond a can. Jesus will work it out. If you let Him, He'll work it out. Amen. First night, y'all could have told me y'all moved. I'm still Reverend. Amen. Somebody said the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Trinity. Bless us on tonight.
Holy Ghost. Send the Holy Ghost. Send your Holy Ghost. Send the Holy Ghost. Send the Holy Ghost. Send it. Send it. Hey! Lord, we need the Holy Ghost. 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 Come on. Holy Ghost. Somebody needs the Holy Ghost. Somebody got to have it. Send it, Lord. Send it, Lord. Send it, Lord. Lord, I cannot breathe. Lord, I cannot move. Lord, I cannot breathe. I got to have the Holy Ghost. Got to have it, Lord. Got to have it, Lord. Lord, I need it. Lord, I need it. Yes, I want it. Somebody got it. Somebody got it. Somebody got it. Somebody got it. Hey! Lord, we need the Holy Ghost. 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 Oh, we need the Holy Ghost. Lord, we need the Holy Ghost.
Well, looks like the Holy Ghost is in the room now. Come on, you better get yourself right now. He's here. Oh, yeah. Is this what you came for? Did you come to be entertained? You better get yourself right now. Lord, I need it. Lord, I want it. I got to have it. Moving way on the inside. Leading and guiding me. Holding out. Y'all better leave me alone. Holy Ghost. from way down on the inside. The Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost. And then they told us that he was excellent. Oh, how excellent. Excellent means you reach perfection. He's excellent. He's excellent. Oh, how excellent. And the Holy Ghost. See, I heard something on the radio this week while I was driving. And they were having this discussion. 5 and 10 years ago, we were building sanctuaries that hold held 3,000 and 4,000. But now there's a great falling off. That's because we ain't letting the Holy Ghost move like it used to move. But if we put the Holy Ghost back up in the church, take out some of the technology, put the Holy Ghost back up in here, lives will be changed. Folks will be delivered. Bodies will be healed. The Holy Ghost. Hey! The Holy Ghost. Hey! The Holy Ghost. Hey! The Holy Ghost. Well, 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 well. Hey! The Holy Ghost. They used to say, you're going to show some kind of sign. You're going to show a sign. Well, help yourself. Yeah, yeah. Oh. Oh, bless his name. Oh, bless his name. Bless him. I can dance all night. Amen. That Holy Ghost will get you messed up. Holy Ghost will get you messed up, y'all. Let's see this. This is why I came out here, because I want to have some church with y'all, Colorado Springs. Some of y'all let go. Anybody know who Grandma Daisy is? Anybody know Grandma Daisy? I don't know her personally, but I watch her on YouTube. Grandma Daisy is something else. She has dementia. But what's interesting, it reminds me of my mother-in-law. Mama would call me her husband of 40 years, who was long gone. Argued with me one day that she owned that house that we was in. I said, Mama, no, you didn't know. Yes, John Howard bought this house, Allen, in 1966. She didn't remember. But let me say, oh, how sweet it is to trust in Jesus. Let me start singing at the cross. Let me start singing Jesus paid it all. She sang every verse and know every word. Even though her mind had gone, that Holy Ghost was still dwelling way down in the inside of her. The Holy Ghost. Amen. We thankful. Just want to real quickly recognize in his absence Pastor Greer. Come on, come on, come on. He's the shepherd of this house. He's the shepherd of this house. We want to congratulate him on receiving his second bachelor's degree in biblical studies. God bless you, Pastor Greer. Amen. Emmanuel, son. Y'all, son. And Emmanuel, God is with us. Son. God bless you. Come on, let's give God a hand clap of praise. Now, this is the first time that I've been here. I know this isn't the first time that Emmanuel has been here. However, I do know, just from looking out at your beautiful faces, that God has been way better to you than a hand clap or a pity pat type of praise. I see a few of them doing it, but can you just give them a standing ovation? Come on, open up your mouth and say, thank you, Jesus. Come on, open up your mouth and say, thank you, Jesus. We love you, God. We love you for everything you've done for us. Oh, we love you, Jesus. We love you, God, for all you've done for us. Because we believe you to be a way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. Come on. Sing that is who you are. Come on, just lift your voice and say, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Yeah. Can we just lift it up to the Father and say, miracle worker. Come on, lift your hands right there and say, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Whoa, we call you a way maker. Oh, I wish I had a few worshipers in here. Promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, and you're mending broken hearts. I worship you, yeah. I worship you. Come on, say, you are here. Sing, you are here, and you're turning lives around. Turning lives around. I worship you, yeah. I worship you. Oh, I worship you. Say it again. You are here. Mending broken hearts. That's why I worship you. Hey. Let's sing it again. Say, you are here, God. Moving in our midst, yeah. I worship you, yeah. Oh, I worship you. Now come on right there. If you believe in be a way maker, open up your mouth and say, he is a way. Miracle. Promise keeper. Light. My God. That is who you are. You ought to lift your voice if you know that he is a way maker. Miracle. He's a promise keeper. Light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Yeah. keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who. Come on, break the music right here and open up your mouth and say, come on, lift it up. Promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Say it again. Say, waymaker, miracle, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. There's nobody like you, Father. There's nobody like you, Father. There's nobody like you, Father. You're the King of kings and the Lord of lords. We bless your name, God. I don't care who wants to look at me strange, God. Because if they knew everything that you've done for me, God, if they knew all the hell that I had to go through to be here right now, they would lift their hands up. So God, because you've been good, I will open up my mouth and bless your name. You ought to open up your mouth and give God what belongs to him. Thank you for the valleys. Thank you for the floods. Thank you for the rivers. Because every one of them, you brought us over. You brought us over. You brought us over. Your promises are yea and amen. Oh, you ought to come on, lift up your voice. Don't clap your hands. I say lift up your voice.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my God. Thank you, my God.
Oh, come on. You can still talk to him. This is what he wants to hear from you on tonight. There's not a friend like the Lord.
Yes, God.
Jesus.
Thank you, Lord.
No, not one.
Yes, Lord.
No, not one. None else can heal all my soul. All my soul's diseases. Oh, no, not one. No, not one. Jesus, how I trust him. And how I prove him, and I'm so thankful that I know, no, Jesus. He's my precious Jesus. When times get rough, I lift my hands up to the sky and say, oh, for the grace. I'm so thankful for your grace. Because I realize that it's the blood that runs through my veins. Oh, for grace to trust him. One more. Jesus. 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 There's just something about that name. Some call him master. Others call him savior. But I like to call him Jesus. He's like the fragrance after the rain. Oh, his name is Jesus. Mary's little baby that was born in a manger, y'all. Jesus. Y'all ain't really come to have church tonight and worship him. There's just something about that name. And here's the thing. Kings and their kingdoms, they shall all pass away. But there's something. But there's something. But there's something about. Now just turn to your neighbor and grab him by the arm and say, neighbor, that name is Jesus. Now come on, clap your hands. Come on, clap your hands. Woo. Woo. Okay, we got to leave that alone. See, because the thing is, I can't speak for anyone here. I'm 28 years old, and I've been through things in my life that I just wouldn't agree that a child my age would have to go through at the time. I've been through homelessness and having to live out of my car back in 2012. And had you been there, had you helped me out, that maybe may have persuaded me that God used some extra help. But because I know that it was nothing but the grace and the mercy of God. You see, we come to church all the time, and we go through the protocols of church. We go through, you got to get dressed up and look real good. If you don't, then you're not saved. We go through, if you come in here with a couple of tattoos on your arms, then you don't know the Lord. You need to work on your relationship. We go through all that. But then as soon as we're out and about in our own homes and in our own walks of life, and we go through things that the church would sometimes deem otherwise, when we go through those things and we don't have anyone else to talk to but God, I guess no one else has been there. Y'all are perfect here. I get it. There comes a time where you have to throw the protocol and you have to throw the glamour of church to the side and just begin to worship God for who you are, worship God with who you are, worship God for who you are. So you ought to come on, open up your mouth and just give him another shout of praise, because you know he's good to you. This is a little song that we've just learned at the church, and we sung it a couple of weeks ago, and we've had some real fun with it. And so since we're talking about Jesus so much, just turn to your neighbor, say, neighbor. Neighbor. Tell them like you love them. Don't act like you love them. Tell them like you love them. Say, neighbor. Neighbor. That still don't sound like you love them. They need to know that you love them. Don't act like it. Say, neighbor. Say, I'll take Jesus for mine. You ought to clap your hands. Emmanuel, I'll take Jesus for mine. Amen. Have you enjoyed the Lord on tonight? Amen. I'll tell you something about that name, Jesus. If you call him long enough, something gonna happen. Call him. I was sitting in my living room one evening having just a rough time, going through some stuff, and all I could say was Jesus. Before long, Miss Mary was running out talking about, what's wrong with you? I went to bucking and hollering and screaming, but there's something about that name. There's power in the name of Jesus. Amen. Reverend Brian Jones is coming at this time.
Amen. Give God some praise. Give God some praise. Give God some praise. Give God some praise. Has it been good to you? Did you have a good time? What a way for 25 years. This started this weekend. We're ready to go on and on. I don't know what 26 is going to do, but 25 right now. True spirit. You need to be clapping your hands, giving God some praise. For 25 years. And we're still here. Would be remiss if I didn't open the doors of the church. You might be out of the ark of safety of Jesus, and you need a lift. You need a hand up. I come to this tonight to tell you that Jesus is your hand up. Jesus will take you through your trials. He'll take you through your things that you're going through. If you just trust and believe that Jesus is the one. You know that we can't do anything without him. We can't do nothing without him, but if we trust in Jesus, is there one? If we trust in Jesus, you might not want to join True Spirit, but we have so many churches here that you can join.
Thank you, Lord.
We all a big family here. Believe and trust in him and know that God is God. Know that he is the one that reigns supreme in our lives. And know that he is the God that will take us higher, higher, higher in him. Give God some praise.
Thank you, God.
Amen.
Amen. At this time, we're going to have, I just want to say, Miss Mary sends her love. Amen. Keep her in prayer. She is currently hospitalized, but we know God is able. Amen. Amen. We know that God is able. Amen. We're going to call the chairmen of this great occasion in the presence of Deacon Gregory Horton. And, he's pointing to Sister Katrina Horton. Amen. Come on, let's give him a hand. Come on, this ain't easy. This is a lot of work putting something like this together, and they've done an awesome job. I thank God for them. These are my friends, and I love you both just dearly. You've shown yourself to be real friends to me. Amen. When I was at my lowest point, y'all loved me anyway. Thank you, Jesus. And we need to get better at that. You know, we the only army that will kick our own when they down. We'll shoot them when they down. That's not what Jesus said. I thank you for your love and for your friendship. God bless you. Y'all get together. You pointing to you pointing to him.
So just to make sure that we're clear, this is the chairman. Amen? Amen. Amen. Just so we're clear. But I would like to recognize the committee members that are here tonight. So if you are on the committee, would you please stand and be recognized? Don't make me call your names. Sister Pat, we're going to give you a pass. Okay. All right. Amen. On behalf of our pastor, Anthony Greer, and his absence, we thank each and every person, each and every individual, each and every soul that came out tonight to help us celebrate. What a wonderful occasion. What a wonderful occasion. We thank those that have traveled from a far distance, Reverend Lenoy and family. Amen. Brother Tony Davis is back there trying to hide out. Amen. And of course, our MC for the night, Reverend Render. Amen. I thought I was going to get up here and do a little song, but Bailey, you just took it to the no, I'm done. We thank you. Listen. Can't nobody do me like Jesus. Can't nobody do me like the Lord. Can't nobody do me like Jesus. I said, can't nobody do me like Jesus. Can't nobody do me like the Lord. Can't nobody do me like Jesus.
He's my friend. He picked me up and he turned me around. Picked me up and turned me around. Picked me up and he turned me around. And then he healed my body and he told me to run on. Heal my body. Told me to run on. Heal my body. Told me to run on. Yeah, he's my friend. So everybody standing. Amen. We thank God for this good one. There's my baby. Hey, Janelle. Amen. I've seen so many that I just love here in Colorado Springs. I think about you often and never will forget this chapter in my life. Never will forget this chapter in my life. I love you, True Spirit. Love you, Colorado Springs. Shall we bow? Lord God, we thank you for this day. God, we thank you for your blessings. God, we thank you for True Spirit Baptist Church. And God, we thank you for how you sustained this body for 25 years. Lord, they said we wouldn't make it 3 years, but look what you did. I can say, oh, but God. You're an awesome God. We love you and we praise you. God, we thank you for the leadership of this body, Pastor Greer. God, we thank you for Pastor Orion Flanoy for the work that he did here. Lord, we thank you for Pastor Joe Morrison and the foundation that he laid here. Lord, we thank you. We thank you. We thank you. Lord, we pray now that the remainder of this great celebration that you'll be in the midst, that you'll move by your spirit. But more so than that, God, we're praying that somebody's life will be changed. I'm tired of church as usual, God. This needs to be about souls. We pray for souls tonight, God. That in the midst of this celebration, that you will save somebody. That someone will come saying, what must I do to know this Jesus that you sing about? This Jesus that you're praying, that you're praising. God, as we leave from this place, but never from your presence. Lord, we want you to go with us and stand by us. Lord, I just have to stop right now and say thank you. Lord, I just have to say thank you for what you've done in my life. Thank you, God. I don't mind publicly announcing I thank you for what you've done for me. How you resurrected your spirit in me, God. I love you and I praise you. As we go from this place, but never from your presence, be with us and stand by us. In Jesus' name we pray. And we thank you for it. Amen.